We spent this entire afternoon listening to the cross-examination redirect of Capricorn Clark, and defense counsel Mark Agnifilo had Capricorn Clark bawling her eyes out for several segments of her testimony, and at times seeming to be a little bit confused and not sure of her recollection as to the series of calls she made while she was sitting in Diddy's car outside of Kid Cudi's house. The impact, the legal impact of the cross-examination, which seemed to be making some hay. The question as far as the legal impact is something that can be up for debate. I'm Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. I'm down at the Diddy trial every day, dropping a couple of videos a day, letting you know what's going on, and I try to cover it at night and give you much greater detail. Now, this morning, Capricorn Clark came out and testified that she had been a personal assistant to Diddy on and off between the period of 2004 and 2018. Taking an extended break in 2012 until 2017 when she was fired in that summer of 2012. She had testified about how she spent 5 grueling days in 2004 when she was taking a lie detector test day after day for 6-8 hours a day when Diddy suspected that she was involved in the theft of some missing jewelry, and had purportedly threatened that if she fails the lie detector test that he was going to kill her, and that she was fired shortly thereafter and brought back on, and then she ended up working with Cassie. Some of the testimony she came out seemed somewhat abrasive in her assessment of Cassie's talent. She referred to Cassie as having talent but not being talented. And when questioned further on that, she said, well, I consider people like Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston talented. That they are stage singers, they can get up there and belt out a song, as opposed to Cassie, who's more of a studio talent, that she needs some equalization, she needs some boosting from the mic and from behind the scenes, and that she's not quite the same level of talent as those other famous musicians. Now, that certainly is something that could play into Diddy's defense to a degree, I guess, in the sense that his refusal to release some of her albums perhaps could be that he will claim, or his defense wants the jury to think, that perhaps she just couldn't hack it at the same level, or at the level that they were hoping that they can get out of her. She also stated that when she was on stage, she seemed nervous and would struggle with some of her performances. So that was the abrasive assessment of her talent from Capricorn Clark, who has been a music industry insider for most of her career, jumping from one company to another in the early part of her career before being brought on by Diddy to work with Bad Boy Entertainment. Now, there was a lot of damning evidence that was presented this morning when she told over the entire story, what it was like sitting in the car with Diddy the morning that he had found out that Cassie Ventura was having a relationship with Kid Cudi, and the rage that he was displaying, that he allegedly kidnapped Capricorn Clark at gunpoint, and she was questioned on cross-examination about this. And Mark Agnifilo made some great points, some great strides when he started questioning how did Diddy get into her apartment, which had a security guard there. She claims, Capricorn Clark claims, that the guy who was on duty when Diddy showed up, that he had been fired, and that supposedly he showed up in a rage with a gun, and that somehow had gained admission. And she said that an older woman who was the more usual security guard told Capricorn that guard had been fired. And then she was questioned about the trip to Kid Cudi's house and the phone call she made, which she said that she was trying to call someone for help, and also to notify and give a heads up to Kid Cudi that Diddy was coming after them, saying that the first person she called was Laura London, which she describes as a close friend, like her sister at the time. And she said that the reason she called Lauren was because she had fears as to that she was just going to disappear. And in fact, she testified on direct that when she was told to call Cassie in order to convince Cassie to come visit Diddy at Diddy's direction, that Diddy told Cassie through Capricorn. So this is Capricorn now talking to Cassie, saying Diddy said he's not going to let me go until you come here, until you agree to come to his house and meet with him. And that Cassie accordingly agreed to come. But when questioned about her phone calls that she made to Cassie while Diddy was inside the house with his security guard, Ruben, and she said that Diddy was going in and coming out and he would see her on the phone and she was trying to sneak in phone calls, she seemed confused as to who was on the phone, whether it was a conference call that she made with Lauren and when she called up Cassie, or whether Lauren was not on the phone. And Agnifilo made some great strides as far as showing that perhaps her memory may not be so perfect. But the bawling part that I referenced earlier in this video, that came when she was being questioned about her repeated attempts to come back to Diddy. She got fired. Now this incident with Kid Cudi happens in late 2011, right around Christmas time. And she ends up being fired that summer, in the summer of 2012, and she thought it was because of, it was punishment that came from Diddy, because she had helped Cassie in getting Cassie a burner phone and failing to tell Diddy about this burgeoning relationship. And she said that her perspective was, what people do is their business. I'm here to be professional. That's all I care about. I just care about the music industry here. And she certainly expressed some frustration with the levels of influence that Cassie had over Diddy. It was an interesting moment when she was talking about how she ultimately was brought back in 2017, and Mark Agnifilo said to her that, hey, you know, obviously he heard your message. He came back to you, because she sent several emails to him apologizing, begging him to accept her apology for what we would presume is Diddy's perception of there being a betrayal. And she's bawling, saying that she was trying to get her life back. She just wants her life back. And on redirect, she clarified what that meant, which is that she felt that Diddy had blacklisted her from the industry. Now, a lot of that testimony, they would say move to strike, and the judge would strike it. So what we have as far as admissible testimony is her telling the jury that when she went for interviews, that she went to different agencies which would place people in with different music giants, that Diddy would show up there and basically be following her around. That one person she signed a contract with died the day after he signed a contract, which they didn't go any further into speculating about his cause of death, but that she found it impossible to work in what she called her core comprehension, her core competence area. That this is what she knew, this is what she was good at. She was good at working with celebrities, she was good at helping people in the music industry develop and further their careers, and that's all she wanted to do. And she felt as if this side distraction of the relationship between Cassie and Diddy ended up derailing her entire career, and that she felt, and she was bawling, that she just wanted to get her life back, saying, I have a son, he has autism, and she's crying, saying that she couldn't get any work, and that she ended up begging Diddy to take her back. Now, the couple of folks that I spoke to, journalists here, thought that Mark Agnifilo did a phenomenal job of discrediting her by getting her to bawl and to admit that she came running back to Diddy. That's one way of looking at it. Alternatively, the jury can look at it as Diddy was trying to punish her and control her life, so much so that she had no choice but to go back to Diddy. So it'll be interesting to try and determine how the jury will read that. Those are the two completely opposing ways of looking at this cross-examination today, and time will tell once we get to an outcome here as to how the jury is viewing this testimony. At the very least, her statements and her story, as told on direct this morning, certainly seem to corroborate and were very largely consistent with the stories of the stories, and specifically the incident that happened between Cassie and Kid Cudi. That's what I got. I'm going to try to break this down in greater detail for you tonight. I urge you, please like, share, subscribe if this is your sort of thing. I'm an attorney breaking this down for you. There's no other attorneys that are trying to break it down the way that I am. And if you like that kind of coverage, please make sure that you not just like and subscribe, but hit that bell. Till next time, and I guess tonight, Godspeed.